Hey Team Whidbey, thanks for joining us today for our PPV Town Hall. And we originally planned to do this on April 29th, but we wanted to delay a little bit so we could get a little more information together and try to provide you some good feedback from the satisfaction surveys and as we continue to analyze that information. So we're going to be presenting information today through the survey responses to try to provide what the action plan is and how we're going to move forward, provide you some information on projects that are going on around housing, and also we're going to talk and have a nice conversation up here about different things, and as we will introduce the group here. I will say, if you're not into housing at Whidbey and you got something else to do, then I totally understand if you drop off at this point, because this town hall is going to be all about our housing on base. And so I look forward to having some good conversations. If you got questions, you can put them into the comment box and we'll get those questions up here to answer as we go along. So with that, I'm Captain Arnie, commanding officer here at the base, and we'll introduce our other colleagues up here on this panel. So Jeff, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, hello everybody. My name is Jeff Green, and I'm the housing director for NAS Whidbey Island.
Char?
Hi, I am Charlene Cavender. I am considered a floating community director, which means I go to different properties to help out when people are on paternity leave, such as Matt, who is your community director. So I provide support. So I've been supporting Whidbey for the last 3 months, and so I'm really happy to be here tonight.
Yeah, Char, I really appreciate you being here as well. And the interesting thing about that is that Char has experience in different housing areas, so she's able to bring some of those good ideas from other housing areas to us. So I appreciate what you've been doing.
Thank you.
And Tara, our new maintenance director.
Yes, thank you. I am Tara Gallen. I am your new maintenance director. I have been with the project now for 3 weeks, so very happy to be here and looking forward to any feedback on how we can keep everything going and do better for our families.
That's great. Well, good. And so, just again, so Jeff Green works in our housing service center on base. He's the housing director in charge of all the UH and PPV, the unaccompanied housing barracks and the PPV unhousing relationships. So when you put in a request to housing, that's his office that request is going into, okay? And then they process that request. They send it over to Hunt into the leasing department. And so leasing, once they go through that process, assign the house. And then there's other things that we'll get into about the relationships for both the entities in this partnership that we do to provide housing. These guys are advocates for our service members and families, okay? So they provide that leasing process, but also they perform quality control on houses as we go through that leasing process. And then certainly if there's an incident where there's like water intrusion due to pipes that have burst or for whatever reason, and there's some work remediation that gets done, the Housing Service Center staff will also work with Hunt in the quality control process of that as well. And then also when you're done living in housing and you're ready to move out, they're also available for the pre-walkthrough inspections and stuff like that to work with Hunt to try to make sure that we equitably work through that process of turning the house back over. So, Housing Service Center, our advocates working on the base over there in the Nor'Wester. You can go to the Navy Life P&W app. If you don't remember how to get in touch with them, go to the Navy Life P&W app, and you got contact information right there for the Housing Service Center. And then Hunt, go to the Red Cafe app, and you get the contact information for Hunt for the offices. And of course, we'll talk about all the different maintenance and everything as we go through this, okay? And then the third element of your experience in your house is your command. And your command should be participating and advocating for you as well. So, if you have any issues and you don't feel like they're getting resolved, go to your command, go to your supervisor, go to your CMC, so that they can help work through those issues as well, working with our base CMC, Mass Chief Gilham. Okay, So here we go. Back into slides. We'll talk about what the tenant satisfaction survey here. And so as you can see, the Hunts received the survey scores from CNIC, which is the Commander Navy Installations Command, which the base works for. And we're going through the process of developing the action plan. Just real quick on the scores, we'll go into some of the scores here in a slide. But overall, across all of CNIC, we saw scores decline this year from last year. Now, if you recall, last year there was a lot of the congressional inquiry, which also drove CNO Admiral Richardson, I'm sorry, not last year, but 2019, that drove Admiral Richardson to send out guidance, which provided us the opportunity as commands to be more involved in the process, which was really great. It also generated through congressional direction, the Housing Service Center office expansion to provide those PPV inspectors to be involved in the process with Hunt. So a lot of good things came out of that, and but also across CNIC as a whole this year 2020 compared to 2019, we've seen those scores go down. We'll talk about that. So we can go back to the camera, Tom. So Char, where are we on the action plan development?
So our Whidbey Island, we have completed our action plans for the Navy, and right now they're being reviewed by Big Navy. But Jeff and
Right.
I and Tara and Joffrey, who is our regional maintenance director, sat down together last week and we went through every single line item that all of our residents have answered. So instead of just doing an action plan for ones that we went down on, we did one for everything, because we feel that we could improve on many things, and a majority of that is communication. We want to be able to communicate better, we want to look more real for our residents, and so some of the things that we're going to be working on is, one that's a big deal, is our resident retention program. And what that means is, from the time that you move in until you PCS out, we have a timeline of contacting you, the resident, to see how your move-in was. So the first week, you should be getting a phone call from us asking if you need any work orders done. Then in another 3 weeks, then we send out an email, checking up on you, make sure your family's doing well. And so we have a timeline all the way up to a year. And at that point in time, at Whidbey, it's a 6-month lease. Most of our properties are a year, so that's kind of how it was based, but we'll have to tweak it a little bit to meet that need. But our intention is to make sure that we are talking to you, communicating with you, and that you understand that we really do care about the input that you have. We also have an internal program that we have to give our employees empowerment to be able to do things nice for our residents when they're out and about on the property. The majority of that's going to be maintenance, because that's who you see most of the time.
Right.
So if Tom, my maintenance guy, is in a home and he sees one of the little boys, did great at his, baseball game, he can maybe go out to his van, maybe get a little baseball with a little bat and bring it in and say, hey, I saw you had a great game, I'd like to give you this. So we have an internal empowerment program that we're also working on. Another step to that, and I kind of had to get input from my staff on this, is monthly, we would like to do short little informational videos. They could be fun, maybe serious, but an example is we may do a maintenance one, and they might tell you, here's what you do when it's winter time, and here's how you winterize your outside pipes so they don't freeze. Or what to look for if you have a smell of gas, or just how to fix certain things in a home. On the same token, our office would also like to do fun stuff. Maybe have a virtual on Facebook or do YouTube pet of the month. Here's so-and-so, who lives at so-and-so, and look at this dog, he won pet of the month. And then have them show them their pet, give them a certificate. We have different things that we're going to be working on to do this monthly. And then the maintenance director and CD will do a monthly informative thing together to let you know what projects we're working on, let you know what's coming in the neighborhood, or maybe just a small Facebook time like we're doing now to ask, hey, hey, does anybody have any issues? You know, here's some numbers, you can contact us. So all of these things that we're implementing is so we can have better communication. And so you know that the people that you are living with care about you, a residents.
That's great, Char. It's good to have a sense of community, which I think a lot of those things are going to help out with. And another thing that if you out there want to get more involved in, we have the Community Advisory Board, the CAB. We've got a couple people who've been, of our residents who've been very active, and I definitely appreciate that. I get the minutes of those, and 2 pages of minutes discussing different questions that they had collected amongst other residents and things. We'll have a little more information about that later on, but certainly if you want to be more involved, then the Community Advisory Board is a good way to do that. But meanwhile, it sounds like if you're following social media, if you're in the Rent Cafe app, if you're looking at your emails, you'll be getting these communications. So that's good. Let's talk a little bit of detail about the survey response, and
Sure.
I'll kind of get your take on that, Jeff. So if we go to slide 3, you can see the participation from amongst the different communities. So in the different colors, overall participation was 25.7%, and then you can see the different participations in the different housing communities. So you might say, oh my goodness, 20.9%, that's pretty low. Well, when you look at surveys, that's actually a pretty good number to get a good extrapolation across the community of what the trends are. But some of the most important information in that is not just the ratings, which is important, but all the comments.
Yeah.
And so Jeff, what were some of the things that you saw as you looked at the comments?
Well, one of the things that I saw in the comments, number one, I want you guys to know that I read every single comment that was put into the survey. And that really helped us out when we were developing the action plan. Because one of the trends that I saw throughout all the comments was the fact that really everything came back to communication, whether it was communication with maintenance, whether it was the front leasing office, whether it was my office at the housing service center. Everything came back to, comments like, I'm not getting called, I didn't get a call, I put in a work order and nobody called me. I left a message at the HSC and nobody reached back to me. There wasn't any follow-up. So everything a lot of the stuff that was in there was directly related to communication, which is why when we put together the action plan, we focused on communications. And we'll get into that here in a couple other slides, but you'll notice that there's a lot of touch point, what I call touch point programs, where either HUNT or the HSC reaches out to you as the residents. For instance, if you have a life, health, safety type work order, like for instance, your heater goes out and you put in a work order for that. My office will reach out once that work order is completed and talk to you and say, hey, how did it go? Were you satisfied with the timeliness of how it happened? How do you think that the maintenance was done? We'll ask you several survey type questions. One of the things that we saw throughout the whole survey was the fact, if you want to go to
We can go to slide 4, Tom.
As you'll see on the next slide, is that we did take a drop in the scores from 2019 to 2020 across the board. Now, there were some individual questions, a few of them that actually did better than in 2019, but overall it was a decline across the board. But some of the top categories or some of the top questions that were asked in there was the courtesy of the maintenance personnel, which was great to see. When you have somebody come into your home and they're providing a service to you, you want to make sure, that's great that they were courteous, professional throughout that whole thing. Quality of maintenance, follow up on the satisfaction of the maintenance, which is fantastic, and then professionalism of the leasing office. Some of the low scores that we saw on there was renewal or recommending housing. Now, what that question really dealt with was, would I renew? Would I stay in housing? Would I recommend this housing to another sailor? Overall morale in the community was an issue. Some of the community policies out there were issues. We had some pretty low comments about overall condition of the home. And we'll talk about some of that stuff that we've already put in place here in the last couple of months to kind of counteract that. Visitor parking, I think that's always, whether it's UH or whether it's PPV housing, parking is always an issue. And then some of the interior appliances. And the one thing that I want you guys to know is that one thing that we've been doing at the HSC with my PPV inspectors is, for the last 3 months, with every inspection that we're doing, we are cataloging the model number, serial number of all the appliances. And we're doing that so that in the future here, we have the data and the information to put together a solid PRA project for future replacement of appliances in the housing.
That's great. You know, back when, real quick, if we still have the slide up, so just you can see before we take that down. So the yellow is the 2019, the blue is the 2020, and so you see all the 9 categories on the right, and then these were the top scoring and the low scoring questions for 2020, okay? So we can take the slide down, Tom. So yeah, going back to the town halls that we did in spring of 2019, appliances were, you know, noted as one of those issues. Some of the houses have some old appliances, and there were some concerns expressed with the liability of those appliances in those people's homes. So I appreciate the effort to continue to do that. And I know when you guys came in to do PM on my house, you went around and you looked at each of the appliances and noted the serial numbers and conditions. So I think having that on both sides in the partnership is a good thing to make sure we get after that.
You know, that's really a great thing to talk about there, is the preventive maintenance. And I know that last year was the first year in quite a long time where the preventive maintenance annual check, you know, they come into your home and make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to be. And if there isn't, they take note of that and then put in work orders. That, last year was the first time in several years where they went into every single home, all 1,495 homes in PPV housing. And we're doing that again this year. That is really our first line of defense for, you know, we live in the Northwest. Mold it's not just in PPV housing, folks. Okay, mold is out in the community, is out in regular houses too. It's just the environment that we live in. You know, water intrusion, mold are our biggest maintenance work items. And that PM maintenance is so important to identify those things before they get out of hand and become a real problem.
Yeah, how that happened was when the housing situation came up, as we did town halls, I realized a lot of people homestead here in Whidbey. And so they might do 3 tours and stay in a house. And they might just not feel like they want to call in a maintenance request or whatever. And so Hunt doesn't get into that house for years until maybe it's turned over. And we were seeing a lot of problems that we could have taken care of earlier on. So that's when we directed that Hunt get into every house once a year. So really happy as we tracked that was done and that we were finding issues that residents weren't reporting. Not to say that residents were doing bad things, it's just that there are issues that residents just feel like, I'm just gonna deal with this and I don't care. And really, we do care because we wanna get in, fix those kinds of things before they become worse problems. Or
Right, it's not often that a resident will look behind their water heater and find that little drip.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, who does that? I don't even do that in my own home, you know, but that's what that PM is for, to prevent that slow drip behind that water heater sitting there for 6 months, and next thing you know, the entire wall behind it is all covered in mold and stuff. So that's the PM checks are critical.
Yeah. Well, good. So on slide 5, Tom, Shar, do you want to talk about, you talked a little bit about your plan for remaining in touch. And so you want to talk a little more about these slides, about your
Sure.
action plans?
So another thing too that we're also doing very religiously is we have weekly meetings with our MHO. We talk about the issues that are going on in housing because, you know, believe it or not, our Navy partners are very involved in how our residents are being taken care of. And so on those weekly meetings, we talk about issues that we've seen at homes, like about a water heater,
Right.
like about mold that you may not have seen because I don't look behind it because there's spiders there. I'm not going there, okay? So yes, it's important. So with their help, we've been able to do those things and kick them out and fix them more quickly than we would have if it would have been just us.
Yeah, I don't think people realize that what the inspection side of the housing service center, we do inspections prior to people moving into homes, right, to make sure that the home is in good condition
Yes.
and that the maintenance that was done in between residents was done and all that kind of stuff. But we also do move out. We just started doing
Yeah.
move out and pre and final
Yes.
inspections too. And we're there as an advocate for the service member there and to help them through that process.
And we're also hoping too, with you being there,
Right.
it gives you a feeling of security and safety that you have, because it is your government entity that is out there advocating for you. And so, because it's a partnership, we talk about everything. And
Right.
and when we do have issues with residents that may not be happy, I'll even go to Jeff and I'll say, hey, they may not want to talk to me, but maybe they want to talk to Irene. And always it's a yes. Irene is amazing. She's one of his employees. She will call, she will say, hey, I've talked to this person. And then we then can follow up, because we've got both sides there, which I hope makes our residents feel like, hey, they do care because you're working together. So for me, that's a big part of the congressional that I think is a
Right.
win-win for everybody. I really honestly
That
think.
was,
Yep.
that was mandated through the congressional hearings.
Yeah.
And I think it's really the bedrock of what this program is
Right.
supposed to be like, is a partnership between the government side of the house, that's my office, and then the privatized portion, which is Char and Terrace portion over
I think
there.
it had much more of a positive effect than anybody could have anticipated.
Right.
Being mandated that would have happened, but it's been a phenomenal.
I think so.
Yeah, we do have a lot of conversations about this. Residents probably don't realize this, but every life, health, safety, emergency, or urgent work order that you put in is reviewed by my office. And we have communications about those work orders with Tara and her staff, and with Shar and the front office people there too, to make sure that those get resolved in a timely manner. And sometimes, I tell you what, 2020 has just been crazy, but this whole thing it's slowed everything down. People don't realize that, well, yeah, sure, why did it take 2 weeks for this to get replaced? Well, it's because of the supply chain. It's because the partner out there and the vendor
Yeah.
are waiting on the part to come in,
Yes.
But part of our plan, part of our action plan is to be able to impart that communication to you as the resident, okay? Because I think what was happening before is that wasn't getting relayed to you.
So
As a
let
resident.
me jump in here on a couple of things. Tom, we're back on camera.
I just meant to slide 6, sir.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so slide 6 is just more of some of the things that are going on throughout the action plan. And but I want to get back. You can come to camera here. So a couple things. One is, first of all, you guys talked about the great value of the Housing Service Center staff that adds to all these things. The third element, remember, is command advocacy. So if you have issues that you are dealing with, either on a particular maintenance issue that's been going on that you've been dealing with, or if you're approaching your pre-move out inspection and you have issues, or you just suspect that there's going to be issues, or whatever the reason is, get a command rep to be there with you as well, okay? Because we need you to be empowered with advocacy. So one of the questions I've got from Lauren in the comments, and Lauren, I really appreciate your involvement in the community advisory board.
Yes.
And all that you've been doing. So tenants were glad to have the inspections, but then nothing was done when there were issues found. Why is that? What's the purpose of the inspection if there's no follow-up? I can tell you that there throughout, so I meet monthly with both sides of the team. We go through all the metrics and we talk about different issues that are going on. And throughout all of last year, every conversation had discussion about the issues that we were finding in the preventive maintenance inspections and what was being done about it. So what I would ask is, if there were issues identified in your PM that you did not see turned into work orders, because then you should have gotten an email notification on the work orders, and you should have been able to go on the Rent Cafe app and track your work orders. Then, so if you feel like there were some work orders that were discussed that you did not get notification on, then I would ask you to call Hunt, give Hunt a chance by saying, hey, you just did a PM on my house 2 weeks ago. I expected these things to happen and I haven't seen them. What's going on? And if you're not getting the satisfaction, then call the Housing Service Center. Because I will tell you, there were a lot of work orders that were generated from the PMs, and Hunt completed those. So if there were some that were not, then please reach out to Hunt, identify those. And so, or if they're routine work orders, get in the Rent Cafe app, put it in there, add a comment. You said you were going to do this on the PM and it didn't get done. Please get this done. Okay?
So, some questions on here I was expecting, and I am going to be very happy to answer them. This one, though, I cannot answer about the gates.
Okay. No, why did all the gates shut down? That's because right as we were about to start this, we had a gate runner at the Maui gate. So we had one as well last week. So of course there's protocols. When somebody comes through the gate and chooses not to show their credentials and keeps going, we've got security protocols which deploy the barriers, generate a security response. So of course when something like that happens, we take care of that quickly, and then we'll get to opening up the gates once we've isolated and apprehended the threat out there. So that's in progress right now. Let's see. Yeah, good. So move out expectations.
So I'm glad that you brought that up. We knew that was going to be a hot topic, and I'm very happy to explain this to you. So we've been talking with our HMO partners, and so we have learned that the damage and cleaning lists and prices and everything have not been looked at for a very, very, very long time. And since I've been here, we've been talking because we've had people that have not been happy with their move-out prices, how the move-out went, and after I have learned about this, we've all sat down and we started redoing this. We're working on a new price, a reasonable new price list. And move-out expectations, so you're going to see some changes, like it is not going to be and I'm going to say this here, it's not going to be mandated that you pay $200 to have your carpet cleaned. Now, if your carpet is beyond normal wear and tear, if it's got red stains on it, if it's got graped, if it's got grease and it's dark, and it literally looks dirty when you're going to go in, we're going to say, yes, you do need to clean that, because we may not be able to get it out. And then we may have to, if it doesn't come out, it might have to have a charge to it. And now I know your next question is going to be, well, what's that charge going to be? Well, carpet should be depreciated. The minute it's put in, it starts depreciating just like a car does, just like anything else. Carpet can last between 5 to 7 years. Basically, in conventional, we go by a 7-year life. Now, sometimes a carpet can last longer, but after the 7th year, it's depreciated. Now, if you were to have pets, and let's just say the carpet's not in good condition, we're going to change it out anyway because that's what needs to happen after 7 years. But if pets have urinated on the carpet, it goes through the carpet, it goes through the padding, and it's going to go to the floor. We have to use a treatment on that, or you're going to smell it, even if you put new padding and new carpeting in there. That does cost, I believe it's over $100 for that. I can get a price for sure, but I know that's the cost that I know off the top of my head. And these things also are related. When we have a move out that we feel might be above normal wear and tear, we will ask our partners to accompany us. And that's one of the reasons why they're doing it anyway.
Right, yeah. Part of when COVID hit in 2020, everything was kind of scaled back. And so really the only thing that we could do was the calm turn in between residence inspections and stuff like that. We've now got it opened up to where we are attending the final and the pre and final move out inspections. And we discuss, you know, once that happens and they go through and they give you their sheets and everything, we talk with you as a resident to find out, okay, were you expecting this? Do you have any questions about this? Do you want to dispute anything in this? And then at that point, we engage with the partner there to talk about the charges that you want to dispute in there. Or if I see something under, you know, over the last couple of months, we've done this quite a few times with multiple move-outs where we said, you know, look, why are you this seems like you guys are overcharging on this. Why is that happening? Which all those conversations is what's led to what Char was talking about, is about repricing what the repair and damage cost worksheet is all about.
Exactly. And if you want to know what an invoice is going to cost, so we cannot charge you more than what a vendor is charging us, just so you know that. That's, I mean, plain and simple. So if you got charged for cleaning and you want to see that invoice, you have every right to see it. We can show it to you. And it's the same for the carpet clean or a paint. We can charge you what a vendor is going to charge us. We are not supposed to make money on these charges. We are recouping back what we have to pay a vendor. Just plain and simple as that.
Right, so two things I wanted to say here. One is, we had some comments during the town halls we did in person where people relayed that they knew that somebody had been charged, like their neighbor had been charged for a burned countertop, okay, on the move out. And then when the new neighbor moves in, they go look and the burn is still there on the countertop. Why get charged if the work's not getting done?
Exactly.
Okay, so we're making sure that's not getting done. And not only is Hunt making sure that kind of thing is not getting done anymore, that they are doing the work, but now we have the PPV inspectors who are there on the move out. They make their own notes, and then they're on the process after the COM, the change of occupancy maintenance. So they are also able to QA that, yes, the things that were charged got fixed, and oh, by the way, the house is in great condition to be turned over to a new resident. The other thing is, good question from Kyle Wilson, I believe it is. And what's driving the BAH on Whidbey Island? Great question. I appreciate that because we got some slides into the end of this. So kick back, relax, and we'll get right back to that at the end of our PPV discussion. Thank you for that.
There's one thing I really want to stress though. When they come to do your final, you have a walk-in conditions sheet that you should have filled out when you moved into your home. You need to be very detailed on that. And I don't mean so detailed that it's taking you days and days to do it, but if you see scratches on something, if you see something's broken, anything like that, if there's a stain on something, because sometimes we're gonna move you in and the carpet might have a discoloration. We may not be able to get it out, but we will say, hey, you know, we're not gonna change the whole carpet out for a small spot, and I'll be honest, but you should notate it on your move-in condition, because when they're doing the final, we should have that with us. And if you've notated a scratch or a stain, you should never be charged for that. Right. And that's one of the reasons why we have that.
And when my inspectors show up for that, we have the inspection that we did during the turn phase before you moved into that house.
Yes, that's
and
right.
so if there's a stain on the carpet, it's going to show on our inspection.
Yeah.
Our inspectors are extremely detailed in what they report.
They are.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it personally, but you know, I appreciate it.
Yeah, okay, good. And so this one, let's go ahead and address it. We're going to get into, there's a question on the communication on fencing. So great question. We've talked about that as a team. And so we'll talk about that when we get into the projects here. So with that, I think let's go ahead and get into the project slides if we want to go to slide 7. So we're going to start with Whidbey Apartments. So I think you should have heard in the past that we are going to recapitalize those. We're going to build new apartments. I think there's 74 units in Whidbey Apartments.
Yes.
We're building 76 units to replace the 74 plus 2 units that were lost in the past years in other neighborhoods. I think Crescent Harbor. Yeah, they were fire lost. So 76 units are going to get constructed. We're still going through the site review process, but I will tell you that if you ever gone sledding in the wintertime at Victory Terrace, down that great sledding hill, there might be, in a couple years, there might be houses at the bottom of that. So that's one of the areas. And then the other area is the soccer fields over on Maylor Point. That's another area that's being looked at. So we're still developing that and that project. So as you can see on the slide, the new construction's gonna happen. And then once the new construction's all complete, then there will be the process of getting into the Whidbey Apartments and tearing them down. So not gonna go to the details of, well, if I'm in Whidbey Apartments, what's gonna happen to me, but it goes
We'll
back.
relocate them.
Yeah, and it goes back to the communication piece, okay? And through all these kinds of things, as we start getting into those, then there will be a point where Hunt's not gonna be putting people into Whidbey Apartments anymore. And then for those residents who are in there, there'll be a relocation to get you moved over to another unit, okay? Great, so that's Whidbey Apartments. And over to Victory Terrace. So what's going on at Victory Terrace? As you can see, 2020, I did want to show on there the things that have been going on, and importantly, the dollar figures. Okay, we deal with construction costs out here on the installation, whether it's doing a new hangar for $40-some million, or whether it's doing stuff in housing at the cost of like vinyl siding repair for $377,000, exterior painting completed, so the exterior painting that's been going on in different places, it's $6 million across the region. So a naval-based KITSAP and here at Whidbey Island, that's being spent on painting, repaving and crack sealing, the fencing replacement, and windows. So certainly throughout my time, we've heard a lot of window problems. So I've been really glad to see window projects going on as well. Another one is the gutter cleaning. The Hunt went, last year was the first year in a while they've done gutter cleaning, which is really good, not just for the maintenance of the house, but to keep the mosquito population down. Every little bit we can keep those buggers down is good. And so in Victory Terrace, we've got the windows, more window replacements going on. And it says project on hold due to COVID-19 restrictions, but we're gonna be getting that going.
Yep, it's
Yeah.
being revisited as the restrictions loosen up.
Okay.
That is correct.
Great. So, so this starts the fencing. So let's get to the question on fencing. And because as we get into Maylor Point also, I know there's some fencing issues there as well. So,
So I came in when this project was already started. I didn't really know very much about it, except Jeff said, hey, it wasn't communicated about the loss of some of the area in the back of the fences. And I said, okay, well, let me find out about it. So I did some research, found out about the fencing, and so they call them swells. Is that correct term, right? So in the back of those fences, when they built those fences originally, they were built on those swells, which means it's a drainage for runoff water.
right.
Now, when maintenance or anybody had to do any maintenance, we have to get permission to be able to go in your backyard, because we may have needed to unclog something, do work, whatever reason, we always had to get permission, and that could become an issue if it was something that was an emergency. So what they did, and they should have communicated this, and they didn't, take 1,000% blame on that. What they did was they shortened it, but they lengthened it widthwise. So there's only a couple of people, I believe, that lost a little bit of backyard, but otherwise you lost in length, but you did gain in the width. There were some people that were unhappy that they lost a gate to be able to come out their yard and to go into the back of the common area, or be able to go around, or, and I drove around, so I kind of know what they were talking about. I don't know why that happened. I'm still waiting to hear back on that. And I don't want to say something just to say it. I do agree. I think a gate would have been nice to have there, because there are some houses that are right in the middle, and there might be 3 on each side. It's something that I'm asking about, so maybe our next town hall, or maybe our newsletter, or some communication can go out when I get a good solid answer of why the gates didn't just go on every house. I really don't know.
Yeah.
But that was the reason for the loss of just that length, but you did make it up in the width, so I hope that's understandable.
Well, all except for, there were a couple of houses out at Maylor Point that did have significant, they did lose a good portion of their backyard.
And
Yeah.
it
And
could've
that was
been
just,
great.
that's just the lay of the land. And that's really unfortunate for the resident that's living in there at the moment. Of course, when that resident leaves and a new person comes in, they're not gonna know
Yeah.
the difference
Right.
on that.
But it goes,
is,
yeah, it
but
goes
that
back
should have
to-
been communicated.
Yeah, it goes
It
back to communication. And so certainly as we look at these projects coming up here, really looking for better communication for people impacted. And so bottom line, almost everybody should have the same surface area in their backyard, okay? There's a couple residents who lost some surface area in their backyard. And then the gate thing, yeah, if you're living and you're back against one of these great playgrounds and you want to release the kids to the playground and there's no gate there, that's not cool. So we'll take a look at maybe collecting addresses that lost gates and seeing if we can communicate what might happen there, okay? So, okay, good, so that's that, and we have, so let's go back to the carpet question. We have a question, what about families residing in homes 7+ years? Can carpet be replaced before move out? So what I'm getting from the question is you've been in the home for over 7 years because you've gone from command to command. And you're like, okay, if I moved out and the house is has a comm, then the carpet might be replaced. So can I go ahead and get a carpet replaced then?
So I would call us, because if you've been in the home that long and your carpet is 7 years, I would definitely.
I'd be open to an evaluation.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I would
Right.
encourage our partner to come with to
Yeah,
do the evaluation, and
I
we
think
can
that would
absolutely,
be completely reasonable
Yep,
for,
and we can
for us to go out
absolutely
and
look at it.
evaluate it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Because,
another thing on
like-
that, I'll go back, another
Yeah.
thing is that when we do the PMs, if we have an awareness of how long the tenant's been in there, we could kind of look at, hey, if they've been in there for 5-7 years or whatever, we could take a look at those things too. and
Sure.
say, go ahead,
Knowing what
Don.
you communicated about the longevity of some of our service members, you know, and the fact that they're going to be here for a while, that's definitely something that we need to be cognizant of. Because we want to take care of the home for their duration and not just on an assumption of when they're gonna be here. So for anybody feeling that they need that looked at, call us, we'll come out, we have absolutely no problem doing an evaluation
Right,
and making sure we're all in a consensus and looking at what that looks like.
yeah. So
Total
you,
transparency,
Right.
understanding that if you do, I'm gonna use the carpet as an example, if we put that carpet in there, that is now new carpet. And we also have to be cognizant of the fact that it is now starting that carpet life over. So we wanna make sure we're being upfront and forthright with everybody on that front as well, that we have no problem looking at those things, but we wanna make sure that everybody, and those are conversations that we have during that whole evaluation process. But we want people to be in their home, we want them to live in the home, and have it comfortable and livable during their time here.
7 years is a long time.
It is.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we can even look at, you know, there could be some paint that might need to be done, because normally between 3 to 5 years, you would do a full paint in a home too. You know, if you got kids and they're running around and banging in the walls, you know, I mean, I've had kids, so I know how they can be. And, you know, we want you to also be proud of your home too. And don't be scared to ask, please don't. I mean, we'll come out, that's what we're here for.
yeah. That's the big thing is, I hope people out there are not afraid to bring Hunt in the home to take a look at something, because they want to make sure the home's taken care of for the longevity of the home, but also to make sure that we as residents, including myself, have got a nice home to live in during our time here. So please don't be afraid of that. Again, if you're not getting satisfaction there, who do you call?
Command.
Ghostbusters.
Jeffrey, yeah. Housing Service Center, okay? Go on the Navy Life PNW app and get
I'll
that.
even give you the phone number right now, 360-257-3331. Please call.
There you go. But I know with Shar and Tara that, you know, we're really doing well with the leadership here. And I know we've got a lot of passionate technicians and leasing agents and everybody. so please, please give Hunt a chance to come in and take a look at that. I think a quick question here, what do people have to do to be allowed to install security cameras? You know, the Ring doorbells are big
Given
and,
permission, all they have to do is call, and there is a ETP, that exception to policy, that all you have to do is fill out. The community director will approve it just 99% of the time, and you can go ahead and install it.
yeah.
You
that's
just
easy.
have to make sure, now just a caveat on that, because we have run into this and we have done some advocacy for this too. If you're installing those things, you have to make sure that your cameras are only covering the front of your yard. You can't put up cameras that
Yeah.
go scan all the way down the street where you get the neighbors' front yards and all that kind of stuff. It's just gotta be focused on your front yard. So.
I'm glad you said
Yeah,
Already
Good
been
job.
down that road, so.
Yeah. So exception to policy, you know, use that. It's a process you can use to get security camera if you want, because yes, we do have prowling activity in Victory Terrace and stuff like that, so I get that, and certainly I think that's valuable to do. Okay, so I think we showed slide 8, Tom. Victory
Yep.
Terrace, we're good? Okay, let's go slide 9, Crescent Harbor. So as you can see, 2020 on the bottom, more fencing replacement, so a lot of that going on. And I know I've heard people say, I like the wood fence, I don't like the chain link fence. I get it, I appreciate your opinion, but the project is what it is, and continue to roll that out as it was developed. Vinyl siding, roadway repairs, so all that stuff going on. Last year, this year, more painting, roadway repairs, vinyl siding there in Crescent Harbor. This is also, Crescent Harbor is a good one to talk about speeding, because I've had to deal with this a few times over there in Crescent Harbor. So, let's see, here you go. We had a question from Greg Petty Officer over there in BAQ 131. Is there anything we can do about the constant speeding through the neighborhoods? It's summertime coming up and plenty of children are outside playing. One solution could be putting more speed limit signs up around the neighborhood. Most people don't know it's 15 miles per hour through housing and only see it near the speed bumps and assume it's faster elsewhere. And so what I would say is when people have told us about, there's another intersection over there in Crescent Harbor where we have problems with people rolling through the stop sign, and we've had speeding kind of on the back where Forest comes in. And so I told security, hey, go over there, spend more time. We've got a speed camera we can put over there and those kinds of things. So if there's an area that you see that has that problem, then please call the Housing Service Center and we will work with security to get more security over there. Which some people are like, oh, security, oh my goodness. Yeah, doing law enforcement, that's what we do, okay? We do law enforcement. And so if you're breaking the law, then they're gonna pull you over. So,
Hey, another thing, Skipper, I'd like to add to that
Yeah.
too, is that at the community advisory board, these are great topics to bring up. And you know, we have some people out there, Lauren and Joseph out at Maylor Point that have been very big participants in the community advisory board. These people actually go out and talk to their neighbors and say, hey, the meeting's coming up. You got anything you want to, you know, bring to the meeting, and they bring those things in. But we do not have any representation on the community advisory board from Victory Terrace, from Crescent Harbor, or from Whidbey Apartments. So if you're concerned about issues like that, or any issues in housing, we really want to have representation from all the communities out there. So I would just implore you to, if you live in Crescent Harbor, if you live in Victory Terrace, or if you live in Whidbey Apartments, just contact Kristen at Hunt and find out when the community advisory boards are, and be a part of it. It's about the community, right?
Yes.
You know, and so
Kristen's phone number is 360-679-4241, okay? She's sitting off camera, but appreciate you being here, Kristen, and she will help you get to the community advisory board. I want to hit a couple other questions that we got ahead of time. Will someone please cut down the leaning trees on Torpedo Road on Seapoint Base? We'll take a look at that.
I got that one, Skipper.
Okay.
I'll talk with NAFAC about that one.
Yeah, great. And some other dead trees. Outdoor amenities on seaplane base. For example, downhill mountain bike course, clearing a track and building some wooden structures. That one, so when I read that one, like about everything I deal with, the first thing I thought is environmental. We're awesome environmental stewards, which means that we have to go through different things to try to do something that seems kind of fun or that a business could do easily. We can't, because we need to make sure we're taking care of the environment. But certainly that's something that in that community advisory board, that's a great way to bring that up and try to see if there's things we can do. The old tennis court by the Navy Lodge for RC car playground, I kind of like that one. That's pretty easy. Jeff will take a look at that. That's outside of Hunt property. That's Navy property, and I'm responsible for taking down the fencing that was there to open that up. So we could certainly use that spot there, and then some other ideas. But those other ideas that you want to share, great chief over in the Scorps, who is on deployment. So I appreciate you chiming in from deployment there. Say hi to your CMC for me. And but just the community advisory board is a great way to have some of these more ideas that you mentioned that you have. And then we had some things about in relation to vandalism, stepping up patrol. So we do patrol. We maintain patrols that do all seaplane based, so they can't be everywhere at one time, but certainly they're visible. And so I'll hand this over to security. And if you have an issue, if somebody keys your car, please call security so we can collect the data and try to determine what are the things that we need to do to make sure that we take care of you guys. And then the move out charges. So there was a specific one about some trash. And so I appreciate the details that Jeff and his team pulled up on that issue. And so Housing Service Center will get back to you.
Sure. Yeah, you could call us, but I can tell you that for about 3 weeks we've been doing the pre and the final checkouts. But even before that, we were looking at about 25% of the move outs and looking at the ledgers, the invoices, are people being overcharged. If we came across that kind of thing, we addressed it with Hunt. And to be honest, to date, we have gotten 100% of the charges that we have noticed that looked like they were overcharges have been reversed and credited back to the service member. Now, please understand that, there are some things, if you leave trash in the house, you're gonna get charged, for them to remove the trash. I mean, that's just common sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are some things that you are gonna get charged. If you break the blinds, you're gonna pay for a new set of blinds.
Yeah, I'm they're coming to my house on Monday to start going through our pre-move out stuff. I got this cat that likes blinds, and she's gonna cost me a lot of money in blinds. And anyway, I'll reserve other comments on the trash thing. But like, if you arrange for your neighbor, you moved out, but you're not officially turned the house over, and the neighbor's gonna take the trash out or whatever. If there's something going on, then please contact the Housing Service Center or contact your command, get your command involved to help dispute that stuff.
Sure, or even contact Hunt and let them know. Hey, listen, my trash can's full, they haven't picked up trash yet, it's there, it's gonna go out, they're reasonable people.
Yeah.
You just need to talk to them.
Yeah, give Hunt a chance. Okay, let's go to slide 10 from Maylor Point. So more fencing, roadway repairs, exterior work. So that's all good. And then let's go to slide 11. Throughout the community, I've seen it. I've seen the painting for the crosswalks and all that stuff. So really good upkeep. Making sure that the community still looks good through those efforts.
Well, our dog park, we just finally got we're gonna go put all the new equipment out. So I just approved where they're gonna put it all out. So it's gonna be exciting.
Oh, cool.
It's gonna be a great agility course for those that have the spunky dog.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a great agility course.
Can I run my 7-year-old through that?
Sure.
I didn't want to say that, but if you want to say that, I thought it. but it's great. It's absolutely great. It's going to be beautiful, and I'm really excited about getting that project done for everybody to start utilizing.
Good.
I do want to put it out there, I know people don't like to hear this, but if you're going to use the dog park, you have to pick up after your dog. I mean, we
Please.
still do have a problem with that in the neighborhoods. And, you know, I have a dog, I pick it up, it's disgusting, but you know what? If I'm gonna have a dog, it's no worse than changing your baby's diaper. So it's just being respectful for the next person. We don't want people that are coming to use a dog park have to worry about their dogs running into poop
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So please just be respectful and just remember, we've got stations there, please utilize them.
Yeah, absolutely. Common courtesy. This does remind me, I saw a great video recently about somebody who brought an RC car to a dog park. It's hilarious. You should watch it. Anyway, and then so maintenance shop renovations, that's great. It's very good for us to make sure the maintenance team has got the maintenance shop they need to do all the work that we're requesting of them. 1,495 houses, that's a big effort to maintain. So that's good. And then playgrounds. So basically, we're a user of playgrounds, and like if you go over to Altfield near the Nor'Wester, the playground that we installed last year, it's a great, beautiful playground. We got some good playgrounds around here, but you guys have got a project to renovate kind of the core playgrounds and make them even better. But what's going to happen is some of those other outlying playgrounds, they're going to go away so that they can focus on some of the bigger playgrounds, make them more destination playgrounds. Which will be really nice, and so that's basically the effort there you see.
And then those other spaces will become green grass, and there'll be open space for people to play.
Yeah,
For
and
kids to play in.
then kids can do the same playground that I had growing up, grab some sticks, play some games. But yeah, those destination playgrounds are really cool. Okay, so let's, I'm gonna talk about first of all, where does your BAH go on slide 12 and when you're living in housing, okay? Because we hear the things, hey, those Hunt executives, they're just rolling in Ferraris out of our money. You know, that's not the case, okay? What's going on? You saw a lot of those charges for those projects, okay? So those things cost a lot of money in maintaining 1,495 housing units. And I do have a couple other questions we're going to get to here in a minute. But so you got your BAH that is taken in for your rent, and then you can see operating expenses, just all the things that go on with paying salaries and utilities and all those kinds of things that go into just operating day to day, year by year. That's 47%. 17% for debt service. So there's a loan so that Hunt, when they took the property over, they financed the project, and so they have 17% of it is debt service. On
Basically a mortgage.
A mortgage,
Yeah.
yeah, I was just gonna say it's a mortgage.
Yeah, and that's common in commercial real estate and stuff like that. That's just how things go, especially at low interest. It's the way to get the capital to do what you want to do. Project fees, asset management, incentive fees, you can see there. Reserve accounts. So all that money that we were talking about in all those projects, there's two different kinds of projects, ORA, PRA accounts that feed into things. The Crescent Harbor renovation. Forgot to mention that on the Crescent Harbor slide.
Right.
So 156 units or whatever it is over there in Crescent Harbor.
Crescent Harbor 1.
Yeah, Crescent Harbor 1, and those are the units with carports.
Right.
Yeah, so those are going to be renovated. 2026 is the current timeline. It was 2028 when I first came in this job. We continue to try to drag it earlier. I'm really hoping for like a 2023 or 24.
Right.
But that's a lot of money that is going to go into that renovation, okay? And so it's not just something that we can do. We're still maintaining those houses, doing the PMs and maintaining those houses. But then in a few years, we'll get that renovation project to renovate those 150-some houses. And so all that comes out of the reserve account. So part of your BAH each month, 31% of it goes into the reserve account so that we can build up the capital that's needed to do those projects. And then partner return. So that's how much in the end Hunt is making off of that BAH 1 to 2% for the partner return. Okay, we can come back to camera, Tom, and then we'll do we'll do these other questions and then we'll go into the other BAH question. So, would we be charged for rats that have been chewing on the wood trim in the laundry room where they were trapped and trying to get out? So first, please put in a pest order, okay? And oh, by the way, so I go to the Rent Cafe app and I put in routine work orders, okay? What's a pest work order considered?
Well, so that depends. If you, one, please only put in routine work orders on Rent Cafe.
Yes.
Because we have a response time, and when they're put in on the Rent Cafe, we are not going to see it in the response time that we need to meet. So urgents and emergencies need to be called in. We can't even put them in on the website either. If you do, then you're not gonna get the response that you need from us, and then we fail, and then we fail you because we didn't get that information. But back to the pest. So, a emergency is an insect that is venomous. It could be a black widow, it could be a wolf spider. Honestly, in my opinion, any spider, but I'm not gonna say that. But any insect that could possibly do you harm, health-wise, safety-wise, is considered an emergency. Rodents are considered an urgent. If they're in your home and they're chewing up stuff, they're leaving fecal matter behind, they're in your cabinets, that's considered an urgent work order. So you need to call those in. You need to call the office or our on-call emergency line that we have. So I don't believe, normal, regular pests is ants, basically.
Silverfish, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the
Just your
name.
normal,
Yeah.
just your normal stuff would be considered just regular routine.
Yeah, so really, to answer the question, that would be, you need to call it in because it's an urgent work order. And then, are you gonna be charged for the damage that the pest, that the rodent caused, chewing up the trim and all that stuff?
Only if you knew that it's been doing it for a while.
Yeah, if you notice
Call
it
it
right
in.
away and call it in right away, you're not gonna get charged.
Right.
If you let it go on for 6-7 months, you're probably gonna get charged.
But realistically, so please call in the rodent
Yes.
issue, unless it's your own pet rat, then that's a different issue.
Well, then, yeah.
Yeah,
that's good.
but call in the rodent issue, and then give Hunt the chance to come in and get rid of the rat problem and fix the wood trim and stuff
Yes.
to get the house back to normal. I seriously doubt you're gonna get charged if you're calling in the rat problem and getting that done. So that's all good. So then, can we get a fix for the bathtubs and renovated housing other than the colored sheeting that doesn't match the tub?
What Joffrey was talking about, the sticker.
Oh, the sticker on them.
So I appreciate that.
Okay.
Obviously, that was already a thing, so please, we'll take a look at that and see, and we'll get back to you. That's another great one for the
Yeah.
Community Advisory Board.
Yeah.
As you see things like that, as a community, you're like, what is up with this? Who designed this? Who decided this?
And actually, credit to Lauren, because at the last meeting, she brought up that exact thing.
She
And
did.
we have been talking about
And
that.
I was just gonna say, it goes back to the feedback that is provided at these board meetings is so valuable, and it's for those that are concerned about reaching out, that is a extremely safe forum for them to feel, use that board member to provide your feedback and push that feedback forward in that forum. The feedback with the tubs, we had great conversations,
We did.
and we are having, and that has pushed a way forward, and that it's opened that dialogue to come up with a game plan to get that addressed, and that was a direct result of comments that came from that board. So that's a great opportunity for those that, if you're not involved, another reason to get involved, to push those changes forward.
Okay, and then playgrounds, more swings, please get rid of the torn up tires because it's awful on shoes, clothes, and skin. Appreciate that. And also, by the way, in the playgrounds, like one time I went to one of the playgrounds and the table, the bolts on the table were loose. So you call that stuff in too. It's just because it's not at your house doesn't mean it shouldn't be called in. They can't be everywhere at one time. So please, we're the ones using this stuff. Call it in. And like a couple years ago, there were bees residents told me there were bees around the playgrounds too, so call that stuff in so they can take care of it. On this one, yeah, definitely, as they do the playground renovations, some of that stuff will get fixed, but if you have a particular concern with a playground that you feel it's not safe or it's just not how it should be, please call that stuff in as well. Okay? So I think we got all those questions so far. So let's talk about BH overall real quick to get back to Kyle's question, if he's still with us, if he didn't fall asleep already. But okay, so if we go to slide 14, please, Tom. So this was as a result, in 2019 we did a survey, and I know, I feel like we're getting surveys every week lately, so people are over-surveyed. Fortunately, back in 2019 when we did this one, we didn't have as many surveys going on, and we had almost a 50% take rate on the survey, which is extraordinary.
Crazy.
But we put a lot of effort into getting survey responses through the commands to get a lot of good information, and we're still using that information today. And this is what we've got here. So what you're looking at on slide 14 is the personnel entitlement. Okay, so basically about 27% of the people on the base, if you look at the entire population of people who would be living out in town, 27% should be 3-bedroom. And you can see the entitlement down there at the bottom. So if you are a second-class petty officer with dependents, and you should, according to the Department of Defense, this is not something that Jeff and I just made up. This is Department of Defense housing policy, okay? If you're living in Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas or Whidbey Island here, living in Oak Harbor, then as a second-class petty officer, you should be in a 2-bedroom townhouse. How many 2-bedroom townhouses are out there in our market?
Not very many.
Yeah, not a lot. So you can see the entitlement breakdown there in the upper left, that you can see about 35% of our folks should be living in 1-bedroom units. You believe that? 28% or so in 2-bedroom, 26% in 3-bedroom, and about 8% in 4+ bedroom. Off-base housing availability, you can see broken down there based on the survey responses, right?
Right.
Yep. So that's what, well, the reality over on the right is, you know, you got 55% of our people are living in 3-bedroom units. Compare that with the entitlement on the left. It's just skewed, okay?
Yeah, and that off-base housing availability, that is what the market is out there. That's what's available in the market out there from that survey. So they did a survey, they went to the city, they did a survey, they said, what's available out there? That was the breakdown of what was available. The interesting thing, Skipper, about this, on the off-base housing, the reality of where everybody's really living at, you guys know that 83% of the people that responded to that were living in a single-family home, okay? So if you look at the housing type that's on there, and this is where it really comes in, that's what each pay grade's BAH is based off of, is that unit right there. And so for 83% of the people that live in a 3-bedroom house, those are really only homes that are rated, that the BAH is rated for are master chiefs, warrant officers, LDOs, lieutenant commanders, captains. That's what those homes, that's what the BAH is rated for those people.
Yeah.
And we've got 83% of the people out there living in what would be too expensive of a home.
That's right. And so if you go to slide 15, Tom, so you can see the median rental costs in our market, okay, with the rent and the utilities. Because remember, BAH is also designed to cover 95% of your rent and utilities. It's not designed to cover your mortgage and your utilities if you buy a house. It's targeted for the rental market. And so that's, you can see what the market in 2019 was showing for the different size
And it's only
houses
gone
there.
up since then.
Yeah, absolutely, it's gone up since then. And so then the one on the right, I think, is really, really interesting, because this is your percent of BAH that, so based on survey responses, okay, as part of that survey, the questions, how much are you paying on rent, how much are you paying in utilities? So we put all that information together, and so here's how much people are paying, rent and utilities, 100 as a percent of your BAH. So as an E6 out there, you're paying 118% on average. So some people are paying more, some people are paying less of your BH. And the 95% line, that's what your BH is supposed to be covering for rent and utilities. Everybody is paying more than what the Secretary of Defense program says they should be paying. And then you can see BAH in the E1 to E5 category is trended up. So, so why do we care about like E1 to E4 without dependents? Because once Master Chief Gillum authorizes the sailor to go out in town from the barracks, then they're renting units out there in that market, and that's what their BH is doing as well. But certainly the with dependents, and we've got all the other information over the past few years, they're generally all trending up, but obviously not going as quickly as the increase we're seeing out there in the market, and they're also not covering the gap that we've already started with over time. So really great information we continue to use to advocate with senior leaders who come in to educate them on why we've got problems here based on the market composition and what that means for people paying out of high.
Right, and just to add to that, Skipper, and let you guys know out there, every year my office does a BAH data call, okay? And we do this from March 15th to roughly about the middle of July. And we have 3 different milestones through there. And what we're charged with doing is identifying every suitable rental that is on the market in our area. Now, what does our area cover? It covers all of Whidbey Island. It goes all the way to Burlington, Anacortes. And so we call property management offices. We look on their websites. We gather that data of the homes that they have had up for rent, that's advertised as being rent. We feed them into a database, and that gets sent back to, actually the guy who did the military housing survey, and he's contracted by the government to crunch all that data and find out, and then from that is where the new BEH rates come for the next year. And so, just to give you an idea of what we've experienced here, we just finished our first milestone. And based upon the data that we collected, we've seen anywhere from 4.2 to 11.5% increase in rent across the board from between 2020 and 2021. So rent's just gone up.
Yeah.
You know, so our indication so far is, you know, hopefully we crunch all those numbers and BAH will go up next year. But, you know, we've still got, you know, 3 more months of data collection before we send it in, so.
And it doesn't, so yeah, that's data collection in the past, they make a decision and then BH goes up, but it's a couple years old by that point, so.
Right.
It's a laborious DoD process. And then on slide 16 there, as part of that survey, would you prefer to live on base or off base, or do you live on base or off base? And you can see the comparisons with the people who would actually prefer to live on base. You definitely get more value for your money if you're living on base. And then also top reasons to live on base or off base. So you can see some good information there. So, okay, we have any other things that we want to talk about?
I did want to mention one
From that
program.
camera.
I did want to mention one program that I should have mentioned earlier. We have a Hunt Heart program, and that's for any military member that's deployed. If you need help with your yard or you need your yard mowed, we do that. If you need some help with some changing light bulbs, honeydews, all you need to do is bring in the deployment orders, and then you have a form that you fill out, and then we put you on a schedule. So with that schedule, we will mow your yard or whatever things else that you need done, and then up to 1 month after your spouse returns home. And then it's also too, for anybody who has maybe just had surgery and you cannot get out and mow your yard or do things that you might need to. So all you need to do is come in and fill out that form and then just let us know. if you can't come in the office, obviously if you had a medical issue, you can email us and we can send it electronically. But we just want you to know that we've got programs out there that we will help you if we know you need it. So come on in.
Great, and so question on fencing, with the Crescent Harbor 1 homes, will the new fences be going in, or will we have to wait for the renovation to happen?
I don't know.
We're gonna have to
I
check.
have to find
Yeah,
out.
we'll have to get back into the project details on that and get back to all the Crescent Harbor 1 home residents out there.
Charlene,
Yes,
is
ma'am.
there a cost to the Hunt Front program and having the yard?
No, it's free. It's free.
That was the
You've
last
seen those
question.
commercials.
Thank
It's
you.
free.
It's a good question. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah. Great. Any other questions come in that we should?
There was only one that was missed. Who picks the color scheme for housing?
So that's great. I bet
Is
Is that your question?
That was it. That's not mine.
I bet I know who asked that question, because I heard that one of the spouses asked me that question. I'm like, I don't know who it is, but we all have different fashion ideas of what's fashionable or what's appropriate, and so there are people. So who makes the decision?
Well, I don't know, but I'm gonna be honest, I love the colors in the housing. You have never seen some of the places I've gone to, how boring they are. And I come here and I was like, man, it's rainbow here, it's beautiful, so
Vibrant.
it's
Yeah,
vibrant, there you go.
vibrant.
But
So, yeah, everybody's got different thoughts on what colors should be, and so that was decided a long time ago in that project development, I'm sure. And I certainly don't make color choices around my house, inside or outside, yeah. But,
Just do the work.
yeah, that's right. So, no, I appreciate that. I know some people don't like it, and I get it, but, you know, we can't custom paint different homes, so. But if you've
you
got.
never know, they might
Yeah,
change.
and also, another great thing for the Community Advisory Board, so please take a look at that. Okay, so let's put up slide 17, please. And so just to wrap up the contacts. Okay, so let's go back to when you are, if you're already living in the home and you have a maintenance issue, first step, please call the maintenance in. We talked about, after all this, if you can't remember if a pest calls an urgent or routine or whatever, just call, and then they'll walk you through it, and we'll make sure it's the right category. And then, or if you know it's something routine, then go ahead and use the Rent Cafe app. It's super easy. I love it. And then, and so then Hunt will respond. You should see that worker come into your email. You should also see it in the Rent Cafe app, so you can track it. And then, if things are not meeting your satisfaction, then you call the community director. Okay? If you're not getting what you need out of maintenance or leasing, call the community director, please. And you can see that's the in the middle of the slide there for Char's number, and Matt Bush will be coming back in June, I believe.
June 1st.
June 1st. And so please call the community director if you're not getting satisfaction. If that's not working for you, then you call Jeff Green and his team, and you can see the phone numbers on the top of the slide. And if you forget all those, or you can't get to this, Navy Life PNW app, go to the Housing Service Center stuff. And then if you want to be on the Community Advisory Board, please call Kristen at the number at the bottom. Go back to camera. So great. Okay. The last thing I'll say is we got a PCS season coming up. Obviously last year was very strange. Typically we usually see 600 houses turned over in the community a year, about 200 of them in the summer. And so team's going to be busy. There was a lot of problems at the end of last year with the COM process, the change of occupancy maintenance.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about that for just a minute, because there were a lot of issues that we weren't getting houses turned over quickly enough, and it was driving down the occupancy rates and putting a lot of people out for too long waiting for houses. Okay, we put a lot of focus on that, and Hunt brought in other teams, contractors to help out, to dig out of that hole. They also looked at the processes, and meanwhile we had our housing inspection team getting on board trained up, and so now we're in a much better position now. And how are the numbers looking now compared to a few months ago?
Well, last October and November timeframe, December, October and November, we were looking at, and the number I always like to focus on is when you guys put on your application, when do you need your house? What date? So that date that your housing is needed, and then what day was your actual move-in? And back in October and November, that was 60 to 70 day difference. So, you needed your home on October 1st, but you weren't getting in there till November 25th. Okay, in December, so we really put a focus on, we worked with our partners. They brought in some extra teams, and hired contractors to come in and help and solve the problem. By December, we got it down to 40 days, okay? So that's still way too long. Our goal is we wanted 10 days. That's what your TLE is there for. And we want to make sure that 10 days or less you are in that home. January, and we got it down to 21 days. And starting in February, February, March, April, we have been right at 10 days. 10 days from the date that you need the house to the day that you move in, 10 days or less. Now that's on average. There's some people that were same day. You needed it on March 1st, you moved in March 1st. There's some people that were 15 days, 16 days. Our goal, and we've agreed to this through our partnership, is to make sure that every single person moves in 10 or less days. That is our goal. And we're getting pretty close. We're really close right now. I'm really happy with how things have progressed, especially in the last 2 or 3 months. We've really made some fantastic improvements in that turn time and getting people out of the Navy Lodge and into their home, before their TLE runs out. So, yeah.
So we got a hill to climb ahead of us with the summer PCS season, and so we're in a good position to start that and work through that process to get everybody out, houses turned around, get people moved in. So looking forward to tracking that. Okay? Well, great. If you have any questions we didn't answer or something came up, then again, Community Advisory Board, contact the Housing Service Center, contact Hunt, or email the PAO, and we'll get you an answer. All right. Thanks for joining us, and thank you guys for the discussion.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.